Today on Her New Lens, I'm joined by Gail Showalter, a coach, author, speaker, and passionate advocate for single mothers. Gail's own journey of raising 3 children as a single mom for 16 years shaped her life's mission, empowering women to rise, rebuild, and discover their strength through faith, education, and community. After remarrying, her compassion for single mothers only deepened, inspiring her to found Single Moms Empowered, a nonprofit that provides resources and scholarships for women pursuing degrees that lead to meaningful, lasting careers. Beyond her nonprofit work, Gail is also the founder of several organizations for women, a seasoned public speaker, and the author of Feathers of Wisdom for Women. Known affectionately as the old bird with feathers of wisdom, she brings humor, heart, and hard-earned insight to her conversations about resilience, spiritual growth, and what it truly means to soar after struggle. Gail, welcome to Her New Lens. I'm so looking forward to diving into your story and the wisdom you've gathered along the way.
Thank you. I'm very happy to be here.
Gail, you call yourself the old bird with feathers of wisdom. I absolutely love that. Can you share the story behind that name and how it reflects the woman you've become today?
Well, it came about in a meeting I was in with someone, and we were talking about it, and I just said, well, I'm just an old bird, And so then we elaborated on it, came to that, because I do offer a lot of hard-learned experiences over many years. And my passion is for women who are going through tough times. I went through a pretty traumatic divorce when my children were young. I had everything going for me until I didn't, and then the children were only 5, 4, and 3 years old. I had 3 babies in 3 years. And so whenever that happened, it was such a traumatic experience that it took me a few years to get my act together, so to speak. And I went back to school. That was a big turning point for me. I took all those kids and I went to the University of Texas in Austin and worked on a master's degree. And that was a big change in my confidence. And I did that, but then when I remarried years later, I continued to have this passion for single mothers. And I did some research, started an organization, and we were just providing fun events mostly for single moms. We did a day of blessing. We gave them lots of presents. We did these inside a home, and we did that for a few years. And then we also did, for 6 years, we did overnight retreats at a retreat center. And then at some point, I was qualified as a life coach. And I began to see that the common thread among the women who were doing well were the ones who had had some sort of education, higher education, some sort of a certificate, so that they could get a job to provide for their families. So many women across the world really find themselves in this situation, and they don't really have a way out because they can't go to school while they're raising their children and, so forth, even though some of them manage to do it nowadays online. But most of the time, they can't get childcare paid for while they go to school. They're trying to get a reasonable job, take care of their children, et cetera, et cetera. So we established this organization that provides for them for 2 years to finish an associate's degree or complete another degree that they may have already started and get themselves on their own feet. And so I can get soapbox about this because so many people are judge rather than help single mothers. In the United States, there are at least 10 million.
Wow.
And a third of them live in poverty because, they had the children before they had any working employable skills. And the daddy or sperm donor, whatever, is gone. And so this is a big issue here. And it's also a big issue in other countries I've looked into, like India. And
Mhm.
so, yeah, women all over the world seem to have a difficult time because they're the moms, they're taking care of the kids and raising them. And it's a big problem. So that became real heavy on my heart. And so in 2015, we switched everything over to helping them finish degrees and get on their feet.
Wow, that's incredible. That's amazing. Did you have people helping you while you were going through it? Did that inspire you?
Yes, I did. I had a couple of sisters that were very supportive of me, even though we didn't live near each other. But one lived near Austin. So whenever I was in school in Austin, I could go out there on the weekends and she and her husband would help with the children. I remember passing out
Yeah.
on her floor, just exhausted. But she was great. And my mom lived nearby in my hometown and she helped a great deal. I don't know what I would have done and I know I see these moms that don't have that. They don't have a support system, and that's part of what we do. We don't just give them money and pay tuition. We offer a mentor. We offer support for them while they're in this situation and try to keep them going while they're just, this is hard time for them. Some of them have a rough time finishing the schooling. And so we do that. And I did have support. I did. I had a lot more than a lot of the moms I see have.
It's incredible the work you're doing.
Thank you.
You must be so happy to see the results of the work when you see the women thriving.
Yes, I do. In fact, right up here on my bulletin board, you can see some of the ladies that we've got in school and some that are finished. We have a police officer, we have a social worker, we have a dental hygienist, we have 2 or 3 licensed professional
Wow,
nurses, we
that's
have a
so cool.
radiologist. So they're all going into
Mm.
fields where they can immediately get a job, no doubt about it. And they're happy. And yeah, their children are thriving too. I love to tell this story. Last May during graduation, one of our moms walked across the stage and her little boy in the audience stood up and screamed as loud as he could, "That's my mama." And I thought, that's the whole point. You're not just helping her, you're helping the next generation see what's possible.
Oh, definitely. It's so incredible. I was actually a single mom too for 14 years, and it's
Oh,
hard.
well, then
It's
you know.
I do, and I also know how the education was the reason I was able to thrive during that time. 'Cause I was actually an optometrist, so I had a doctorate and I was able to survive. I could live my life, and that's I can't imagine not having that. How hard that would be, because it's just
That
so
is
expensive.
it's expensive, it's time consuming, it takes a lot of energy to get through school, and then you've got children to take care of. So, yeah,
It's a lot.
really.
It's a lot. I noticed that faith plays a huge role in your work. Can you explain or expand a little bit on that for me?
Well, it depends on how long we have, but I tell this story. In fact, yeah, it's written up and published, I think, um, of how I went back to college to get my master's because that's the way in Texas, that's the way that you improve your income, your salary rate, depending on the degree you have. And I knew if I had a master's, I would get a bump and then that would help my retirement. And so I decided that's what I would do. But how I was going to do that was another story. And so instead of trying to just say, okay, God, make this happen, I took one little step at a time in faith,
Okay.
one leap. And the first one was the GRE test, which you
Mhm.
have to take to get into graduate school. And I'd studied for it and everything, but it had been 18 years since I'd taken a standardized test. So I took the test and I did okay. There are 3 parts and one part didn't count, blah, blah, blah. So I was like this close to the number that UT wanted. And I thought, you know what? A lot of people would say, well, God didn't mean for this to happen. This is just not going to be okay. Just go on to the next thing. And I said, no, there's got to be another way. So there was. I went to UT. I sat down with the dean. I had a letter of recommendation. I had my GPAs and my, all that. And all he did was talk to me and put a stamp on a piece of paper and said, sure, you can be here. So that was the first time I realized that you need to step out in faith on things. But see, I still didn't have a place for us to live. I still didn't have a place for my children that summer. Wow. And everyone said, well, you can't get a good childcare in the summer for 3 children because most people hold those spots. So it just so happened that year they had a grant for continuing students coming back after being away. And they called it older students. You know how old you had to be? 23. So I thought, well, I'm definitely 23. So I went into that office. They gave me a list, a typewritten single-space list of 100 daycare centers. Wow. And I thought, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to go through all of these. So I started looking and thinking and calling and visiting. There was one that was downtown. And I thought, if it's downtown, what kind of playground or anything are they going to have, So it's a church. And I went in one day and they had this gorgeous playground that had just won awards with big oak trees and everything. And it was a church. And so I went in and the lady took me through the whole thing. She introduced me to the cooks. And I thought, this is incredible. And then she sat down. She said, may I enroll your children? I said, well, I'm going to just be here for 2.5 months and I have 3 children. She said, oh, yes, I know. And so that just like was an open door. I couldn't believe. I really was amazed. But that's not the whole story. So then I had to find a place to live. And I had a friend that worked at UT. And so she put up a little post on all the bulletin boards that I was looking for a place for the summer, just a little apartment or something like that. And I had 2 days before all of my deposits would fail. I mean, I couldn't get my money back. And she called and she said, I have something for you. And it was a little apartment in the Clarksville area, which I wasn't familiar with at the time. And those people in Austin know that area. And it was someone that was going to be away for the summer. She wasn't going to take her furniture or anything. She just wanted to sublet. And so I got a place for us to live at a reasonable price. But that's not the last thing that happened. You see, each step I took in faith that it would work out was amazing. But then I found out, okay, I've got to maneuver the kids to daycare. Then I've got to find a place to park, which is unbelievable in Austin to find a place to park. So there was a shuttle bus. These shuttle buses run all over the 40-acre area and around Austin's city. And it just so happened that one of the stops was half a block from our apartment where we could get on this bus. And it just so happened that bus stopped at the corner of the church where the kids were staying. And from there were 2 buses that left every 10 minutes or so. So I could come back out after dropping the kids off, and that bus would go directly to the front of the education building where all my classes were. Now, if you knew how big UT is, I mean, that's like 40 acres. It was a miracle. It was one little miracle after another that I didn't make happen. I could not have made that happen. It was answered faith. Mm-hmm. It was a open door to someone. God had a wink, and that was it. I mean, and that's just one of my. Wow. I mean, I have several stories. But that's the one I tell from people who want to go back who don't think they can do it.
So when you're working with single moms, do you help them in terms of they're open to moving forward in faith?
Yes, we are based that way, and we have spiritual support for them. and we have churches that donate to us. And so, yes, we are very much encouraging them in their faith.
Yes, it's wonderful. I'm curious to know too why it says how after you were married, that deepened your commitment to single moms. What happened there with you that made you want to go back and support?
I think you have to believe that it was a calling on my part, that I felt it in my spirit, a calling to do something. I didn't exactly know what I was going to do at the time.
Mhm.
I developed the program to have the days of blessings, and then I got lots of women to support me in it
Okay.
and, provide these events for moms. And I thought that would be what would happen, that organizations would want to do this. That's not so much the way it went, and I could have given up. But at some point, okay, we had the retreats, which were very spiritual, very prayerful, very meaningful, and they were good. And I got a certificate as a life coach, which helped a lot. But even in doing those events, which were, like I said, they were very beneficial, very spiritual and prayerful. Those women had a time that they could pray, they could walk in the woods, they could, uh, be alone, or they could be with me, or whatever they wanted. And this would be a big group of women. I'd say big, by 30, 40 women. And then they could spend a night on their own without kids. They had to make arrangements, but we tried to help with the arrangements for the children. And so that was good. And that was 6 or 7 years. But somewhere along the way, a friend pointed out to me, this isn't ongoing. It's not giving them food that's going to last and keep them. And that's when the idea about the education started to gel, because I realized that the moms that I'd worked with and the moms who had been successful, when I say successful, I mean they were putting food on the table, they were providing for their children, they could pay their rent, etc. Those women were women who had qualified in some way for really good jobs. Now, I'm not a big believer that everybody has to go to college, because my children didn't all go to college and they're doing fine, but they were taught to have great work ethic. They had many other opportunities that the women I work with did not have. And so I could see that for single women in the country, if they could go to a 2-year school, well, I got the idea from Buckner in Texas. It's a big organization, it's huge in Texas. And it started out as an orphanage, but they now have 7 sites where they do this for single moms. But we needed several $1,000,000 to start that here. And I didn't have several $1,000,000 to do this. So we started small, just based on the scripture, do not despise small beginnings. And we had one mom, and then we had another. We've got about 5 going to college, and it's just real exciting. And I always tell your listeners, if you want to do something, you have an idea, contact me. Or if you're a mom and you need a grant, contact me. I have some access to grants
Great.
for single moms, for women who are going back to college. And this one place that does this is based in Iowa, but they cover the United States and Canada. And so if that's you and you think you might need some help, contact me.
Fantastic. You are just blazing the trail for single moms. It's amazing what you're doing and what you have done with your life. It's incredible.
Thank you.
I have a question too about women in transition. So there's so many women listening that are in transition of some kind. Whether they're rebuilding their life in some way, they're newly divorced, single moms. I wonder what wisdom you would share to a woman who feels like she has to start from scratch.
Well, I always say to my moms, be gentle with yourself right now, and very slowly, carefully have a goal. And I tease, but I'm serious. Even if that goal is making sure everybody has clean underwear Monday morning, just set little goals for yourself. Then, if you have a dream in your head, start doing research. And it's so easy now. It's at the end of your fingertips. You just get online and you can answer. any question. Maybe you have a desire to be a social worker. Maybe you have a desire to work in the health field. Start researching and let your mind daydream a little bit, but don't jump. Don't leap into something that you are not ready for yet. And then I say, do a complete autopsy on your previous relationship. So many women jump from one to the other without looking at what happened previously.
Okay.
So that's my tips for the day.
That is pretty awesome. Yeah. It's big because we know the relationship that they choose is going to have a massive impact on their life and their children's life.
Oh, yeah.
And they've got to choose well, choose wisely.
Mm-hmm.
What about if you could offer one feather of wisdom, one truth you wish every woman knew, what would it be?
Believe in herself. You know, the God dwelling within you has lots to say, but you have to listen. You have to spend some time in solitude, which is the first chapter of the book, Solitude. You have to be quiet because God's voice is often spoken to you in silence. And if you're running and trying to be out and about and at a bar or at, always jumping to be with somebody after you've become divorced or separated or whatever, then you're going to miss out on something, a message that you may need to be hearing. And that is one of the things I really stress is that time alone is valuable. Don't isolate. I'm not talking about extremes, but spend some time in silence and listening to that still small voice.
Okay.
Because there's some wisdom there for you.
Yes. That's wonderful advice because I think so often when there's really serious trauma and upheaval, I think it's hard. I was going through it when I was first a single mom. It's very hard to sit with myself because I was feeling so much. But I feel like that is the key it's like really hitting me what you're saying because I think we forget that we are connected and we can listen to our own selves and our own heart and slow down and not feel like we're rushing so much.
Exactly. Yeah. I wanted to get married. I wanted to be remarried right away. And I thought, oh, this is going to be an answer, but it's not.
No, it's not. Exactly. Definitely. One thing I want to say, well, first of all, I'm so amazed with what you've done. And at the conclusion, I'm going to share all of your links and information with our readers so they can click on the show notes and find out how to reach you directly if they have questions about grant money or any information you can share with them, these single moms that might be listening. But one thing I want to say too is at Her New Lens, we always ask, what's one lens you've learned that has changed everything for you? So what is your lens that you would say has been so helpful for you navigating your path?
Developing a renewed confidence in myself. My divorce just about destroyed me. And I think it took me a couple of years before I could step out and see myself more clearly. Because when you have the situation I was in, it's pretty hard on your self-confidence. And every situation is different. I mean, a lot of women leave an abusive situation, which also puts them in that position of questioning themselves because, it can really mess with your mind. So I have talked with many women who don't seem to have enough confidence to move forward. They have a lot of doubt, but that is the lesson I think I learned is that I'm capable, that I can do this, that I can live through this, that I can work through this, and I can become the person that the Lord who created me intended me to be in the first place.
Okay. That's wonderful. So it's like a lens of renewed confidence. It sounds like you're saying. when we think about lenses, often in my work is looking out at different perspectives in the world outside of us. But you're saying that looking at yourself through the lens of confidence, of renewed confidence, would be the thing that really made a difference.
Yes. Yes.
No, that it's truly, it's so funny because we look at others, we look at opportunities, we look at different things, but it's hard sometimes for us to look at ourselves, especially when we're having such a painful experience, and to
Mhm.
see ourselves differently. But I love that. The confidence is the one. I love it. Well, I just want to thank you so much, Gail, for sharing your wisdom. And I appreciate you being here. And thank you so much.
Having me.
Oh, thank you. So, what did you think of Gail's story? It almost allows us to see things differently. And being a single mom, yes, it can be extraordinarily difficult, but it's also possible to see it as a higher calling, an opening to a very adventurous life, and creating it on your own terms. And I feel like that is what Gail has shown us here today, is that it's possible to take that experience and see it differently. And she's turned it into something pretty wonderful. Thank you so much for joining me and Gail Colley Showalter today. I hope this conversation helped you see single motherhood and womanhood itself through a gentler and more expansive lens. Gail's story reminds us that even in seasons of loss or transition, we have the power to reframe what we see and to find grace and strength within the challenges that once defined us. If today's episode spoke to you, I'd love for you to share it with another woman who might need a moment of hope or inspiration. You can also subscribe to Her New Lens wherever you listen and leave a quick review. It truly helps this community grow. And if you're ready to explore your own new lens to see your life and relationships through more empowered, heart-led perspective, come connect with me at TriciaRoseStone.com. Until next time, keep seeing yourself and your life through the eyes of compassion and endless possibility. Thank you.